Dale. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited, Karen. It's lovely to meet you at last.
I know you too. Well, we've been connected for quite some time, and to actually sit and have a chat is absolutely fantastic. And I love the work you're doing. I've you're not far from me. You're only an hour from me, and I've heard so many positive comments about your work. And
Thank you.
as a kinesiologist, but now also you've got the book out. But it's not just that. You've got this, your life, the things that you've been through, the things that you've experienced, and particularly in emergency services, the stuff that sort of led you to where you are. And I absolutely love those stories because, while I appreciate people that have just say they come out of school and say, well, I'd like to be a doctor, and then they get their, the degree, and then they start practicing. It's not quite as exciting for me, as people who have pushed through something or have, been through something.
I think the gift is when you talk about experience, and we all have them, a lot of the time, and I think this is what drove me to write the book in the first place, is we all have experiences over and over again. Some of them are pattern-based until we learn a lesson.
Yeah.
And some of them are to enrich our lives and show us what love is. And it wasn't until I did brain integration training with my kinesiology umbrella that I became to understand what trauma is, and that we all have it on some level. Whether it's when Lady Di died, or the Twin Towers came down, whether it's a friendship breakdown, or a workplace relationship, whether it's something with your partner or your kids, or whether it's the pandemic. We've all experienced trauma, and when we break down what trauma is, it's just this: we don't have the resources to get through the experience, and what's left behind is a pattern or a trauma tale of what your body is then programmed to react rather than respond. And we're stuck in that space of flight or fight rather than thriving in life. And no one wants to think that they choose fight or flight or freeze. And they hugely desire the want and the need to thrive, but don't know the steps to come back to reprogramming or resetting themselves.
And that's so true. And it's just, we all have, I say to a lot of people, we all have a desire to live in peace. We all have a desire to live a happy life and to thrive, but it's not, and I don't believe that people choose to live a shitty life. I think that I agree with you. It's, we just don't know the steps, and this thing about we all have trauma, I guess I was one of those people too that would be like, no, I'm fine.
Suck it up.
Yeah, suck it up, get on with it, move on.
Yep.
But the more I think about it, and I'm not going to go back to, I shouldn't suck it up. I'm going to sook about it because I'm not going to do that, But it's the more I'm realizing, oh geez, I need to sit down and do a bit of work on that. I didn't realize that was impacting me so much, and now I need to go back and have a few thoughts on that, to clean it up. But not everybody's in that space, where they can recognize it, one, because they're caught up in so much drama and chaos, because that's the only way they've been able to manage. And it's
that's such a common statement that I hear clinically and professionally, and when I work with groups, is the first thing someone says to me is, I feel stuck, or I don't feel myself, or I can't progress to the space I want to be. And then what comes out of their mouth is negative. And I go, okay, I love reframing. I hate being in a negative space. And so let's call this for what it is. This is undesired. This is not where you want to be. But let's acknowledge it without shame, blame, or guilt, and just sit quietly. And there's a really famous author that I referenced a lot when I wrote this book called Pema Chodron. She is an American Buddhist nun. And she calls this reaction, this defensive reaction, a hook, or Shempa. And Shempa is designed to say, hey, I'm still here under the surface. Please look at me, address me, and then we can move forward, rather than me stabbing you in the heart and then you putting yourself down because you don't fit, or you don't have this shiny Instagram look on yourself this morning. It's like, let's just breathe. Let's just start with our breath and go, yes, there's something there, and right in this moment, I'm okay.
Mm.
and just breathe.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
It's so simple.
Yeah.
And yet it's not until I have someone and I make that connection with them and say, just, babe, just breathe. Let's just breathe. And right now in this moment, acknowledge you're not that old pattern. That's just a hook designed for you to turn on and run the survival program
Yep.
rather than living your best life. And so let's
Yep.
reframe that to, I'm okay in this moment right now. There's no blood on the floor. There's no fire. There's no one in front of me with a knife. Kids are all alive.
Mm.
Dogs are all alive. We're all okay in this moment.
Mm.
Okay.
Yep.
And then we begin.
Yep. The thing is, though, most people don't. We don't allow ourselves that space. This is a big problem, and I'm guilty. You know,
Let's reframe problem to challenge,
yeah,
because problem sounds insurmountable.
yeah,
But when I issue a challenge and we slow down, you've naturally then just married my breathing from
yeah,
and talking and thinking, because I know you're thinking I'm going to just completely disrupt you with that thought process, to let's just slow that down and where are you right now?
mm,
And I'll keep challenging you and to where are you right now?
mm,
And where are you right now? And
mm,
it's still okay.
yeah,
And this is the challenge of modern Western society, because whenever I've traveled to alternative Eastern countries like Bali and Indonesia and places like that, their lifestyle is slow
yeah,
and loving, and it's all heartfelt.
mm,
It doesn't come from this headspace of flight or fight. It comes from thriving with the joy of being able to wake up in the morning going, "Oh fuck, I'm alive!
yeah,
Woohoo!"
yeah. It
It
is.
doesn't get more simplistic than that, does it?
No, it's a completely different mindset, isn't it? You know, us Westerners, it's like it is. It's a mental mind fuck all the time. It's what do I have? What don't I have? What do I need? What am I going to get? Well, how can I get that? You know, rah, rah,
It's
rah.
a competition that Western society
Yeah,
has set us up to fail and seek the next quick fix, and it doesn't exist. And when you're in that space, you're not coming from your heart, you're in your head.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when you're in your head, you're not thriving, you're not grounded, you're just running a survival program of some description.
yeah. Wow. Well, I haven't even asked my first question, and we've almost covered the solution to human survival, but or to human thriving. You know, not survival, thriving. This is great. But you know what you've done, like you've, as I said in the very start, you've done a ton of things. And when you're talking now, it's obvious. You know that you've really grabbed it by the horns and really invested in it, you know, like not just sort of said, well, I could be a kinesiologist and I'll read a few books and tinker, you know, it's obvious that you've really sort of formed this as part of your life and just lived and breathed every single bit of it. I just love it. But how did you get into the field of kinesiology and alternative healing? Well, I did a quick mention at the start, but tell us a bit more about that.
That's a really funny question, because every time I get asked, someone does a search on LinkedIn or they look at my background, they go, "You've got a really unique or interesting, eclectic CV, Karen." I go, "Yeah, I know." But I'm very fortunate that Spirit has just guided me every step of the way. Like you, I'm an environmental scientist by trade and industrial chemist.
Wow.
That's just code for I'm good for drugs and bombs and how not to fuck up the environment. And I went to work at EPA as an enforcement officer, and I did that for 10 years and did a myriad of different things. But what it taught me was I could look at big picture or I could look at small picture. And part of the role that I had in prosecution work is I became a qualified detective. And I got very sick with Crohn's disease and tried to change pace and went into consulting and became a HSEQR auditor and travelled the country auditing industrial premises because I was a waste specialist. Still didn't get well, and what helped me over the line was this wackadoodle stuff called kinesiology. And after my first session, I said to the lady that I went to, "I want to learn this." She goes, "Well, it just happens to be I have an info night next week. Come along." I just get the sense you'll really take to this. You've got a science brain. I'm like, "Yep." Well, I was addicted. I just, and it's one of those things people go, what is it? And so I'll give you the,
Yep.
the quick, nasty version. Kinesiology is a stress management modality. It incorporates the use of muscle monitoring, so muscles in your arms, your legs, your neck, even your, everywhere you've got a muscle, we can monitor it. And the idea is that muscle monitoring gives you biofeedback from the brain, the nervous system, the body. It incorporates all of the Western sciences like anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, biochemistry. It also incorporates how your systems work. So you'll have a respiratory system where you've got heart and lungs and all of the, the liquid input and outputs and the biochemistry and the feedback to the brain. It incorporates neurobiological science, so how the body utilizes senses, processes it in the brain, and then has a reactive response to what information is being received. It also incorporates chiropractic assessments, so which vertebral segment, nerve plexus, and organ can hold a stress pattern. But it also incorporates Eastern sciences like traditional Chinese medicine and meridian therapy. So, meridian is just an energetic communication pathway for an organ. You want everything talking to each other nicely, otherwise, it's like you've got a biker gang dropping acid and drinking for 3 days. You get these hormonal shifts in your body. It also incorporates the sciences like chakras and the Nadi system and energy systems. And sometimes that's a little bit challenging for people to get their head around until you start talking quantum physics and
Oh,
mechanics. And people go, oh my God, Karen, you're blowing my mind.
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I didn't get physics until I studied kinesiology. And
Mm,
you understand, right now, you and I are talking in positive space time, but when we have negative space time, everything is one and the same.
mm,
And so I can work in what we call your human body field or the auric fields or layers of energy that holds the information of how your body is to run or operate optimally.
mm,
And so I can work on the whole of you, not just your sore left elbow. We
mm,
look at the emotions. We look at the psychology of how you store or process emotions. We look at, the mental aspects of what are you thinking, feeling, and behaving like in response to the emotion or the owie that you have. So I love it. It's a whole, and because I'm an ex-detective, I like to get to the root cause. What's
yep,
making this happen?
yep,
What's the actual story
yep.
that you're running today? And when you're able to talk like that to a client, they're able to go, oh yeah, I have that. Oh yes. Oh, and there's all these ding, 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 ding buttons going off in their head,
Mm,
and they come to understand so much more about themselves just in an hour session that
mm,
they can then go away. So kinesiology doesn't fix you. What it does is it removes the stress obstacles so you can go away and recuperate yourself and become the best version of you.
mm. I love that. Now I've got two things to say.
I
That,
bet
that
you
was,
do.
yeah, there was a lot of scientific stuff in there, and
Yeah.
I used to see kinesiologists years ago, and you made me think, oh, I think I might go and see Karen. Well, that's an and I'm going to. The thing is, when you're talking like that, I've experienced it, and it is absolutely freaking beautiful. Actually,
Yeah.
I'll tell people how it feels from a because some people might think, well, geez, I'm not going to go and do that because you're monitoring my muscles. You're going to have all these things attached to me, and I'm shit
No,
scared.
no, no,
So
no.
it's
It's literally just literally monitoring a muscle. It's me touching your arm or leg. And if you've got a trauma background like domestic violence, sexual assault, I don't even have to touch you. I can work on ways where you can just hold out your hand or a part of your body that you feel comfortable with, and we can work around that. So it's
mm,
very much say if you were to come to me today, it's, well, Karen, where are you at today and what are you comfortable working on? And your subconscious will only allow me to access what you're ready to access.
mm,
And more often than not, I have people who are so traumatized, like soldiers with PTSD, who cannot articulate what's going on. That's okay. Let me just throw a blanket on you or a sheet so that you are safe. And let's have a code word or a code color. And so we've got mechanisms in place to just gently ease into whatever's going on And if you have a tendency to release with laughter or tears or a pain shift, we often have breathing techniques, and this is where the meditation comes in, where I don't want you being a hot cathartic mess on the floor like you might have with a psychology session.
Mm.
I would rather we just use breath or talking or focusing on an object, and we work through it that way.
Mm. So yeah, so that sounds much more simple than what you said. Although I love what you said, because it sort of really explains, for people who like, there's a bit of voodoo crap, you're touching my arm and you get it.
Oh, the number of people who call me witchy poo or voodoo, I'll come and I don't know what it is you do. The number, if I had $1 for every time I had someone say to me, I don't know what you do, but I feel so good after it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
do. That's why I went and studied it, because I felt so amazing.
Yeah.
And I could feel the shift in myself and connects me back to who I really am, and can feel minuscule challenges now to be able to go, okay, this is going on.
Yeah. I love it. It was so, there are going to be people who say that, and
That's
and
okay.
there are people who need the data. So I'm glad you've said all that. Another thing I was going to say is that the problem with doctors and there are some great doctors out there. So I'm not bagging one, favoring the other, and all that kind of
Neither
stuff.
am I.
But what bugs me, and there are some bad alternative practitioners too. I'm just going to say it. There's but with a lot of the medical system, it's kind of like, well, here's the symptoms, here's the band-aid, and like I've had it with medications, and I've said I'm not taking them, and they've said, well, you are, because and I've said, well, I want to know why this has happened, and we don't. Well, I don't know. 30% of the country's got it, so don't worry about it. And I don't accept that. I'm like, no, I want to know. I want to know why. So I want more tests, because I want to know what's going on. Anyway, long story short, doesn't matter. The thing is that kinesiology is, I actually think that what's wonderful is that if you can have what I'm going to say, a mixture, like just have a mixture of different things. And the whole point is not to say, well, one's better than the other, and this, I'm only doing that, and I'm only doing that, I'm not doing that. What the thing is this is my body, and this is my life. I deserve to thrive. Therefore, I'm going to see anybody that I want to, and anybody that I can, that is going to give me continual pickups, so that
it's called complementary therapy for a
that's
reason.
it.
Yeah. I know when I went through breast cancer, and I've had people actually come up to me and say, how is it you're a practitioner and you still got cancer? I go, well, I live life out of a bubble. I still have stress. I still manage an autoimmune condition. It's at the end of the day, it's none of your fucking business. It happened. It is what it is. And yet my surgeon and my oncology team were amazed when I utilised kinesiology, naturopathy, acupuncture to manage all of my post-operative pain and my issues that I've had and still have with chemo, and I still am in a space where I'm not a hot mess.
Yeah. And the thing is, I like you're saying that, we can't just be in a space and be perfect, because where we respond to our environment, and our environment is fucking chaotic at the moment, in particular at the moment. But we can't. It's a matter of exactly what I said. Just keep seeing different people, and just keep saying to yourself, I deserve to thrive. So I'm going to do what I need to do to.
And it's finding, and it's trying, and keep trying until you find someone you resonate with, who listens to you, who gives you attention, and helps you feel that you are who you are, and this is what you're reporting back, and they have a vested interest in you, rather than you're not a number. And that's one of the reasons I went to Melbourne and travelled so far to have the care that I have, because my medical team literally operate as a team. They meet on Mondays, and if I go and see my surgeon, the oncologist and everyone else will know, okay, here's Karen's update, and this is what we're doing, and she's coming in this week. And so I didn't have to retell any stories.
Yeah.
Well, this is where I'm at. They all knew, okay, you've been to see Karen, and this is what's happening. And yep, is that still the plan? Yep. Are you happy? Yes. Do you have any questions? Well, yes, I do. Great. And they would sit down and give you time.
Yeah.
And that's why my shortest appointment time is at least an hour.
Yeah.
That you have time to digest, time to ask questions.
That's so important. You know, recently I changed doctors. I went to a whole new clinic, and my first appointment with my new doctor that I put out on Facebook, does anyone know a good doctor? And I took months and months and months to choose. And I finally got one. And I said to her, Shib, what can I do for you? I said, first thing, build a relationship with me. That's what I need. And she just looked at me kind of like, wow, wow. And I said, I want to be listened to. I want to be cared for. I want to be heard. You're my consultant. I want to have conversation with you. And she does. And I'll tell you what, you're spot on the money, because.
And you know what? That's the formula for healing your trauma tale. Do you have a relationship with yourself? Yeah. Do you listen to the messages your body and your mind give you? Do you take small, actionable steps to remedy what your body is saying?
Yeah.
And the answer in Western society, if you're proactive watching the TV, like television stations, free-to-air TV, if you get in the car and listen to radio, you're going to be subject to a targeted campaign that incites fear.
Yep.
That's a whole nother topic of conversation we won't talk about today.
No, but it's true. But it's true. It's absolutely true. I don't. We haven't watched the TV for 10 years. Just don't even. Don't have a bar of it. But it's But yeah, you're right. And most of us go, oh yeah, I feel like shit. But I'm too busy. I'm gonna go and do. You know, I question all the time. Why do I feel like shit? Why have I got a headache? Why do I keep getting a pain in my neck? Why is it? And I question until
that's the shape. That's the itch. That's the discomfort saying, are you ready to look at me yet? Are you ready to turn your head and look at that side of the past and go, right, what's going on? Are you ready to sit with that now?
Yeah.
And it's okay. We do it at our own pace. And that's an experience in itself. And I'm coming to learn, especially after having PTSD, that experiences aren't good or bad. They're just experiences. But it's our trauma tale that taints the flavour of whether the experience is good or bad. And that's just your past wanting to be resolved.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a life lesson waiting to be embraced.
It's a real difficult one, isn't it? I'm not even going to get to any of these freaking questions I've got you, because this is just so much more interesting. But what's really interesting?
We can always talk again.
We might need to. What's really interesting is that you know, we shove shit down, you know, and I'll have to pack that down, and I'll pack it down a bit more, and then sometimes we get a brick and we fucking hammer the damn thing down. You stay down there because you're causing me pain. I don't hear about it or know about it. Stay down.
Dr. Phil, how's that working for you?
Yeah. but it's such a bad habit, you know, and truly it is. I'm simplifying it.
It's not bad. It's just a survival mechanism so that you can get through this thing that you had to do today. So let's stop with the shame, blame, guilt. It's not bad. It's just a habit. Call it for what it is. I'm okay.
Yeah. But a lot of it is just taking the time, isn't it? And we're just not prepared to sit in silence.
We don't gift ourselves that gift.
We don't. No.
That pleasure of understanding more about ourselves.
Yeah.
And more often than not, we wait until we have pain physically expressed, because that's the last form of expression.
Yeah.
To draw our attention to something.
I often do I take my time and I ask myself, you know why? Because I'm my favourite subject.
I love that. That's the quote of the day. I am my favourite subject. I've been using, I am a self-care whore.
Oh, no, I'm not. No. It's taken me a long time. It has taken me a long freaking time. You know, It's taken me till in my late 50s, which I am now. It's only been the last few years that I've started to, because of going through menopause, I've lost my thyroid, all sorts of shit. You know, my body's starting to say, righto, you know, enough's enough. I've held you up for too freaking long, and now I need you to sit down for a bit, and I need you to, you know, I can't keep up the speed you're trying to make me keep up at. So
I need some kindness, please.
Yeah. So, you know, it's taken me 50 plus years to actually stop and say, you know, Karen, you got to do some self-care. So, and I don't even think I'm that great at it. I just am putting effort in. I'm putting effort in every day, and I'm chipping away at it. But I think it's we've, as Westerners, have to get better at that, and
I agree.
we really do, and that's not a shame thing. We just have to get better
No,
because we've got a
yes,
pattern. We've
it's
got
a
a
it's
pattern.
room for improvement, isn't it? And I think
Always.
if you were to say that, imagine if a doctor, instead of prescribing a cigarette in the 50s or a shot of whatever in the 70s, imagine if they said, so your homework, and GPs now advocate your script for today is meditation.
Yeah.
There's actual science where they've documented just 3 minutes of meditation a day. This is the Heart Math Institute. 3 minutes a day can change the coherence of your heart, which can be measured 6 meters outside of the body, and
Wow.
impact it for 6 hours.
Wow.
Just 3 minutes a day.
Wow.
Imagine if first thing in the morning you could breathe with a guided meditation for 3 minutes. Just have someone saying, breathe in, breathe out. And then you could
Wow.
always add to it, that miracle morning mindset of, right, today I have to do X, Y, and Z. So let's focus on X and flowing into the space of doing X and feeling yourself doing it. And it's just gentle and it's dynamic. And then feel yourself finishing, feel the joy that brings. Pause and then flow to the next thing and visualize your day. Everything from getting in the car and thank you, angels, for the car working, and thank you there's no potholes that I hit and ding my rims again. Thank you for getting a car parked for me right where I needed it so that I can get from here to here. And you literally just imagine if you could spend the first 20 minutes of every day just having a miracle morning ritual.
Yep.
There's no shortage of tools. They don't have to be an hour of meditation to get a day-long benefit. It could be, I'm going to go for a quick 10-minute walk.
Yep.
I'm going to go and hug my dog. I'm going to enjoy having this cup of coffee first thing in the morning and not being a dragon because I haven't had it. And it could be, hello, George, meet George, my plant. It's not, you're only limited by your imagination and willingness to connect more into your heart space.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I dance first. That's my big thing. Dance or walk. And then, and I've got to a point now too. I've got this massive big to-do list, but I always pull 3 things off and say, right, that's it. That's it. If I get those 3 things done, I'm happy. That's all there is to it. So, yeah, so it's really, now you talked about having PTSD, and I know that you were part of the emergency services, and you did, some attended some horrific sort of accidents or events. How did you? What was your sort of mindset back then? I know, like, compared to now, and I don't know if mindset's the right word, but your body, mind, soul sort of set up back then compared to now. Like, how did you deal with that, and how did you process that kind of stuff, and what impact has that had? There's about 1,000 questions here. What impact has that sort of had to you moving into this field and understanding your past better?
Oh, now let's see.
Which question?
Back in the day, working for government, we won't even say the number out loud. Back in the day, we'll just say back in the day, health and safety and well-being wasn't at the forefront of human resources, and I'm happy to say now it is. That's evolving, and going to emergency response incidents, the debrief was generally getting locked in a room with a slab and watching everyone write themselves off.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was talking therapy at your own expense. So of course you didn't do it, but I feel eternally grateful that I'm a bit of a spiritual goddess. So I've been doing spiritual journey work for 2 decades, and I had the most amazing teacher who was just 50 years ahead of her time, and some of the work we were doing 20 years ago is just starting to come out into mainstream society now. And she had trained with the late Louise Hay, and we did some really powerful work, and I learnt how to process things that were stored in my body that I couldn't find a voice for. And it connected me back to things that had happened in my childhood that finally gave me a voice as an adult. And then having some inherited autoimmune conditions and working through those, not listening to the stress, and then having something very significant happen just before I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And even then, that was a gift, because Spirit had whispered to me on a holiday with my family, go and get this checked. There's something very wrong. You need to get it checked. And having a conversation with Spirit of, I knew which side, I knew where it was, I knew what was going on. So when I went to have the mammogram, the actual mammogram was fine. It was when I was in the biopsy machine that it broke down and I was stuck in it for over an hour.
Wow.
And yeah, that was very intense. And there was a whole series of things that had happened. And of course, it happened to an ex-hospital certification auditor. So I gave them a lot of constructive feedback, and to their credit, they've implemented trauma-informed training, procedures, and trauma-informed care not only to the local breast screen service but all 13 sites across Victoria, and have recommended it as minimum standard of care nationally. And I think, well, thank God I found my voice and wrote that 5-page letter of complaint, and got to deal with the most magnificent woman at Breast Screen, the director of operation, who was a voice for the CEO, and they wanted to make changes and they made them fairly quickly. So,
wow,
you know, sometimes what is awful, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, and I would like to think that the manufacturer took on board some of the feedback that I gave them. But I'm strong for a reason. And when Spirit says, I want you to step up and go through this and share this story, you know, the number of women that I've influenced just talking about the steps through a breast cancer chapter. It's not my life story. It's not my journey. Fuck that. It's a chapter in my life that's gifted me many experiences and met some amazing people. And just talking about discomfort, topics of discomfort, is enough that, you know, 50 women that I know who have been putting off a mammogram went and got one. 6 got diagnosed.
Wow.
And in stage 3 or 4. So she's really got something in front of her. But I said to her husband, spoke to me, and he said, I don't know what we'd do if she hadn't have listened to that podcast you did and spoke about, just get tested. If you think something's not right, get tested, because we still have her. And I went, that's right. You've got a gift of, you've now got time to say goodbye and wrap things up. And because she's very unwell. And I said, the last days are so precious and you don't get them back. It's not like dropping dead of a heart attack or going to sleep and never waking up. You've got this gift of life. Don't waste it. And that's where this is my raw come from.
Yeah. Let's talk about your book in a sec. Let me just touch on a couple of those things. You talked about talking to Spirit. Now, there are going to be some people, and I know there are people, because I've had the same. I'm with you. I talk to the angels, and you call it the universe, call it God, call it whatever you want, call it your intuition, call it your guide. It doesn't matter what you want to call it, but that's for the. Now, I'm not toning it down for anyone. I don't want to tone down this one statement just so that to bring in anybody who's kind of like drifted out thinking that, no, that's a load of bloody woo-woo. It's not a load of woo-woo. It's actually, you know, I'm just going to plead for people that are listening to this who kind of started to go, oh God, you know, that Spirit. Don't. Open your mind just to the possibility that it might exist. And even if you bring it back to just accepting that, if you don't want to call it Spirit, you don't want to call it angels, you don't want to call it your inner guide, call it your intuition, if you must. Because, you know, we all have intuition that is connected to something, and I don't know what it is. No one really knows what it is. We'll never know, but we know it exists. Like for those of us,
you know what, I call it my faith of the unknown, undocumented science.
Oh, I like that. But you know, the fact is, it's there. Like for those of us who have practiced it and who do practice it and who use it and who have seen and heard and who have made life-changing decisions because of the information that we've received. It is actually there, but can we put our finger on exactly what it is? No. So let's call it intuition. Just for anybody who might have moved away slightly, please accept that and allow yourself some space to sit in that space, because we all have the answers within us, and it's a matter of, call it whatever you want, but just listen. Please just listen, because I just want people to come back into this space now for an opportunity to say, this is possible. It actually is possible to listen to our inner guidance and get the answers and get the information, because we actually are we're not just biological beings with skin, blood, and a heart pumping. We are energy, and I know I might just be stepping out a bit, but stick with me. We are just energy, and we're just contained in a body so that we can get around, and we are so freaking more than we think we are, and we're so much more than we think we are. We are just amazing, and we're utilizing the tiniest little bit of the potential that we have in this world. And so all I would ask, if anybody's like, bloody spirits, just consider it's possible. Just consider it's possible, and just say out loud, okay, I'm open to it, because I guarantee shit will change for you in an instant. It just by saying, I'm open to it.
It's so true.
And it's when you talk about the car parking angels, I do it all the time. Okay, angels, I need to park. I just went out for dinner, just before Christmas with 3 friends, and I've met them all at the one at the front door. She said, "Where'd you park?" I said, "Oh, right here, right at the front door." "How did you get a park right at the front door?" "I've been driving around the block for ages." Said, "Oh, I asked the angels," and she laughed at me, but I could see in her face, well, I think she's got something there. And then the other 2 came, and then they're like, well, I had to park miles away. So, and the one I met, she said, Kez didn't. She just bloody asked the angels, and she's out.
Mary, parking fairy. Mary fairy comes in very handy. It's a tool I use a lot. And it all comes back to the law of attraction.
Yeah.
The law of attraction actually dates back longer than homeopathy of see it, believe it, receive it.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. The whole science of epigenetics is also linked with that, but that's another conversation.
Yeah. I know, yeah, it's way too big, but I love all this stuff. And quantum physics, I mean, yeah, it's a funny thing that I love quantum physics, but you froze. You actually froze right when you were saying it. So isn't that amazing? The universe, like,
the whole 3D technology can't keep up with the higher resonance. It's like, imagine us live on stage. That would be way more entertaining.
It would be fantastic. Well, that's actually a good idea. Anyway, let's keep moving. Yes. Tell us about your book. This is my raw. Now,
this is my raw.
I want to know, like, tell us what the book is, and tell us what I love doing is interviewing people. I like, as I said right at the very start, people can just go through, get a degree, and off they start practicing and that sort of shit. Yeah. I love interviewing people who are real, who maybe, so a lot of people don't want to damage their reputation. They want to be seen as perfect, and I'm the expert, and I'm the blah, 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 blah. I love people being real. And none of us, doesn't matter what we practice, I still don't get off the bench sometimes. So when
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. I'm about 98% real, and I've got a boob and a foob. That's the in joke. If you can't laugh, you cry.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
This book is really, I can remember sitting quite vividly in the oncology ward having chemo one day, and I was having a bit of a cry, as you do, and the nurses were great. They encouraged that, and we had a conversation with one of the pastoral care counsellors, and I was reframing things, and I wrote on the chemo bag, "This is my magic juice. It helps me shift me to a space of healing," and da 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 da. And what I realized was that my story is my power, and understanding my story and healing from the pain that the story brought, and then sharing that with others is my life purpose. It's my sole purpose, to be of service to others. So it's all of the tips that I've figured out over the last 30 years, and then sharing that with people right from the beginning, and using client stories, names changed, but understanding, breaking down, when you can understand why you run a certain survival pattern and then the behaviors that come as a result of that, you're more readily able to sit consciously and start to break down, oh, I'm giving myself a really hard time today. What if I just breathed? What if I got grounded? What if I just, and that in itself helps slow you down and bring you into the present moment. And the more one can understand about the importance of breath and understand what our nervous systems are doing and understand the benefits of grounding and then what emotions are bringing up and what you do with them, that's a year worth of therapy in one book.
Yeah.
And then you're going back to your therapist, whomever you use, whether it be a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a physiotherapist, a massage therapist, a kinesiologist, whatever it is, even if you just have a mate date and talk things out, when you can actually understand what's going on, that's when you hit the choice point and say, I don't need to go down this road that I keep traveling down that causes me to spiral. I can choose a different way. And it's that choice is when you start to heal.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually feeling that choice, recognizing that choice,
Yes.
and consciously making it. Yeah.
Yes. And being very present with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you, and that book, by the way, before we go on, that book is fantastic. And, it's, and from the very first chapter, it absolutely captivates you. So if you are thinking about getting a book, if you're up to another book or you need one, because we all need a new book, everybody, whatever, grab that. This is my raw, Karen Humphries, and we'll get to where you get off her website anyway or everywhere else, but we'll get to that at the end. But, or where can people get it actually? Because I might forget.
Amazon, Kindle, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, Book
all
Depository.
Of those.
Yeah, all of the main online
yeah.
bookstores now stock it. And if you want a signed copy, I can mail you one, and just visit my website.
Fantastic. Yeah, and get it, because really it's just that even if you've been feeling a bit lousy, feeling a bit stuck, feeling a bit like, oh, I've got bloody headaches, blah, blah, blah. Just be open to that, what, maybe this could be the start of a different journey, a different, when you're talking about that path, maybe just reading that book could be the start of choosing that different path and just opening myself to, what else could this possibly be, rather than keep hammering down the same path that isn't getting results. So
can I interrupt there?
Yeah,
one of the main conversations I've had in the last month and the lead up to Christmas is predominantly with small business owners like yourself who are struggling with, and school kids and families, of the fear of uncertainty and being invested in that external drama. So it doesn't have to be a physical ailment or a traumatic experience. It could be what's happening in the world is affecting your life. Well, how do you bring your focus back to you and make the best of your every single day to be the best version of yourself? So it doesn't have to be this big life-changing thing, but when you actually sit back, the pandemic has been a massive shit festival for us all.
Yeah, it absolutely has. I'm part of two big networks that two big groups that get together regularly online, and it's talk. The talk is not even the pandemic's never mentioned, and it's just like we're moving ahead and we're successful businesses no matter what, and it's a whole different mindset. So, but not everyone's has found that. Yeah, tell me about the book. I want to know, when you wrote it, were you like, this is what I hear from so many authors, so, and I believe there's a book in everybody, and I believe that, they don't have to be bestsellers, but I believe that everybody's story will impact somebody and will positively impact somebody and change somebody's life. So I believe we've all got a story to change somebody's life, but most people won't write a book, and most people are petrified of the thought of putting their, it's any form of art, because I'm a songwriter as well, and an artist's experiences. When I put my my work out there and it's my personal, my heart and soul.
Terrifying.
Yeah, there's a fear, that this is, people are going to reject this, or people are going to stomp on it or criticize it. And it's not just, it's an actual critical, the feeling is, it's
Yes.
a criticism of my being, because it's so raw.
Yeah.
Did you feel that despite all your knowledge and all your trainings and all your stuff, did you go through that?
Oh my God. Oh my, okay. So I got a book writing coach because I never considered myself a natural writer.
Yeah.
Blogger for sure, could talk as I want. And my book writer and my publisher both said, geez, Karen, your words are really just like how you are. Yeah, I'm not polished. I swear like a sailor. And that's all in the book. I've had actually people say to me, I'm reading it as if you're in the room with me. I'm like,
Yeah.
great, that's the goal. But
Yeah.
writing the story, 20 boxes of tissues, just revisiting and purging out more emotional residue attached to some of the things that I was talking about, and understanding when because each chapter has some science, it has some case studies to explain how it might look or be portrayed. And then at the end of each chapter, there are affirmations and journal prompts for you to do the same in your life so you can make it very real and relevant to you. So, of course, by the time I get to the end of the chapter and start looking at the affirmations, I'm like, oh, I'm all rosy again, and this is what we can affirm. And then we go to editing, and editing is like scraping barnacles off a boat, and it's, oh. And then it comes to publishing, like, yay, I'm going to get published. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm going to get published. And oh, what the fuck have I? A massive, massive, like, nothing worked. I sabotaged everything. None of my technology worked. My computer crashed. Facebook, like, everything just, it just stopped until I could realize. And I went to a colleague and had some kinesiology. I had this massive negative belief associated with the fear of being rejected, and I was doing all of the rejection. And just hearing you talk before about putting out your creative passion to the world is, most people don't realize that in this life, and this comes back to this faith that we were talking about, we have a pattern of things that happen in our life, a pattern of emotion that we're here to deal with. And so when someone puts it out there, oh, I wish I didn't have this, it's like, would you like to deal with my stuff? Because I've been working on this for nearly 50 years. And you sure as fucking shit don't want it. You know your stuff really well. You're the encyclopedia of who you are.
Yeah.
And so you're the only one who can fix where you're at. You can take all the pills and cut it all out and do this, this, and this, but at the end of the day, it's still your responsibility and to own and do something with your story. And it can either be a shit festival, or it can be a bright bunch of roses, or a donkey in the paddock that you've rescued. It's, everyone has their own collection of experiences, and they all have a story. And everyone is just as important as the next.
Yeah.
So, and that's terrifying. Think about, what do you mean I'm responsible for my story? And that's okay. We'll just go back. We'll start at the breath. And if we need to stay here for a while, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
We go as deep as what you're ready to immerse into. Yeah. And when you're ready to take the next step, I'll be here to hold your hand. And it's okay. Just breathe. It's okay.
So you gave yourself all that advice and pushed through, and you got the damn thing done. And
I wrote 2 journals worth of crap out and cried another 2 boxes worth, and had my book writing coach gave me a very stern talking to, and she said, of the clients that I have, only 5% who originally come to me, so she screens them now, only 5% actually publish. And so of the 5% who actually engage her to write a book, only 1% of that 5 of the population get to printed space.
Wow.
Because the fear of judgment, fear of not good enough, fear of uncertainty, fear of all of these residual fears that we have arise and just stop you in your tracks and create self-sabotage. So we are our own boundary, but I want you to think of if nothing else, regardless of whatever I've said today, perhaps this is the parting message, is you are your own wall of China. filled with wisdom and information and resources and literature. You are your own British Britannica series, if you choose to look at it.
That's just it, isn't it? It's just making that decision that I'm open to looking at it. I didn't have any of that when I wrote my book. Like, I didn't care. I was putting it out whether people liked it or fucking not, and I didn't care about it being rejected. But I did have, my biggest thing was the bloody formatting, in Word, and I was too stubborn. I was way too stubborn to just get someone else to do it. I was like, no, I'm gonna do this because I've got this pride thing that I can figure out anything, so, and oh my God, I could have saved myself so many bloody
I'm
headaches.
laughing at you because I had pride too, but I surrendered much more readily. I'm paying these people to help. I really made the very wise investment. I spoke to Leah Mether before I started, and she got me onto Kath Walters, who got me onto Sylvie Blair, and Kath guided me as a book coach. So, and I thought, well, I'm paying the money. I asked her all the questions, and every time I had the speed wobbles, we'd have a quick 10-minute chat, and I was off and running again. So the confidence stayed high. When it came to publishing, that was completely unknown. So I just said, I'm a publishing virgin, Sylvie. Make the process gentle and beautiful, like a first time, and we always laughed. And I said, and you're going to have to do a lot of polishing because I talk and write like Jeff Fennick. I love yous all. And so she had fits of laughter, and we just made it funny. But I didn't shame or blame or guilt myself into. There was nothing bad. It was all learning.
Yeah.
And when I had that mindset, I could do anything.
Yeah, and I like the way you said it feels like you. I've had so many people say to me when they're reading Get Off the Bench, they're like, I can just hear you saying all that. And I think that's a gift. I really do think that's a gift, to be able to put your voice solidly in those pages, that people really truly feel. There's no point writing a book trying to be a smart ass and trying to figure out all the big words to put in there when that's not you. I just love that you're just saying, I just slammed it down, somebody cleaned it up a little bit, but it's me. And I think that's important. And people kind of get this idea that, and I know this, I've spoken to so many people, but I didn't do very well, and I'm not what's that, English literature and shit like that. And I'm like, you don't have to. If you've got a story, it's your words, it's your essence, it's, that's what people want to hear. Yeah. But it's the whole I'm not good enough at English puts people off, and that's a bloody shame. That's a real shame, because somebody's life can benefit, because of what you've got to say. But anyway. Oh, and you've also got your I Am Changing podcast. You better tell us about that, because we're going to have to go in a minute. So you better tell us about your podcast, because it's bloody fascinating. Tell us what that's about.
The I Am Changing podcast, thank you for giving that a plug, is really just a space that keeps manifesting a choice point for people. And so I break down what some of the hurdles or barriers that people perceive are in their life, like shame, like blaming themselves, like not mothering themselves, blah, blah, blah. And each topic, I try and keep it under 30 minutes, even with the guest speakers, so that when they're going for a walk, they can hear something that's relevant to them or what they might be feeling. And all of the people that I talk to on my podcast are all fellow practitioners in one shape or form. Yeah. They're open about sharing a story. They've all gone through something. They've all come out the other side and learnt something from it, and then shared their lessons learnt. That's a gift.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I like how you say 30 minutes. I've been trying to get mine down to 30 minutes, but I can't, because I just get too many great conversations going, and I can't bloody pull it up, because it's just like, man, this is so bloody interesting. I think even if I was the only person listening to my podcast, I'm having a great conversation.
You're having a great time. So am I.
So many people, but I do know I've got listeners, and I thank them so much for sitting through, an hour at a time. But I just think that you get people on, for me, like it's a much longer, broader thing, but I just think that the podcasts are such a beautiful bloody medium to bring people to people. Like, you can be doing your housework, you can be going for a walk, you can be driving in your car, and instead of being brainwashed by the bloody fear mentality of the radio, you can listen to real talk. And you know, it's I think the beauty of a podcast, and I've had this said to me, and I'm sure yours would be the same, is that people say, I feel like I'm sitting in the lounge room with you, just listening to have a conversation with somebody. And I think
if you come back to quantum mechanics, is the resonance of sound. You can put your heart essence into a sound wave.
Yeah.
And that then enables you to talk from your heart, and someone feels that in their heart.
Yeah.
Sound can penetrate anything solid.
Yeah.
So when it will penetrate through all of the barriers that we put in place, and it just lands in the heart. It's like, wow, I really feel what Karen is saying, and then I'll start to process it consciously.
Yeah, because it's landed on your heart first.
It's landed in the heart and the gut first.
Yeah, that is so, I love that so much. I love it. And you know what? Look at this. I was doing a thing for the libraries recently, and the woman interviewing me, Tanya Patterson, she's so gorgeous. I've written this down and a post-it note, see? And she said, oh, I'm going to describe you, Karen, as a hug in a voice.
I love that.
Oh my God, my whole body just went, I just gushed. And I would never, ever, ever have put those words together, because they just wouldn't have come. But that is such the essence that I want to be for people, you know. And she's wrapped it up in what, 5 words?
5 words. Hug and and when you think about it, the written word hits the eyes. Yeah. And then it has to trickle down to the heart after you've thought about it.
Yeah.
Whereas the beauty, and this is what really strongly resonates me to podcasting, is you connect with my vibe just by listening to me. You don't even have to consciously pay attention to the words.
Yeah.
You're receiving the energetic message through the sound wave.
Yeah.
And it hits the gut and the heart first, and then the brain responds.
Love that.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
I love this stuff. Yes. And I think that we've got to, you know, I'm just going to say it. I've said it in about 1,000 podcasts, and I haven't even done that many, but I'm going to exaggerate. You know, I know we've got to go to school, and I know that we've got to learn all the stuff we learn, and I appreciate school, and I so appreciate so many teachers who bust their ass day in, day out against a system that's not bloody favouring the kids. But the thing is, we're so taught to be competitive and academic and, you know, and all this kind of shit, you know, and it's not shit entirely, but, you know, it's not our whole life. It's not our whole being, and it doesn't.
It's one's type of learning, and working with spectrum kids with the brain integration stuff and getting their speech and writing and cognition up and running, it's helping also the parents understand we learn by seeing, hearing, doing. I know myself, when I'm learning something new, I'll watch it being demonstrated. I'm reading and hearing the literature being read to me. I practice it once, I've got it.
Yep.
But that's because I've worked through my own learning barriers and cleaned all of that stuff up. That's not to say that I'm still probably not ADD, because I probably am. That's part of my superpower, and I'm learning to tame that, so I'm not working huge hours. I'm just super creative in very finite windows now, and that's okay.
Yes, 100%. Anyway, you've just secured what I'm saying. It's just we just got to get away from thinking that that's the only thing. And I don't even know where we were now, because I'm completely lost. But something
about mainstream teaching, and our body hears and feels and resonates with the sound before it sees written information.
Yeah. I think everyone listening gets where we're going, because I've totally forgotten, because I am so buzzed off with this stuff. Like, in a buzzed off means like not in a good way. I get almost frantic, you know, when talking with this stuff, because my frequency goes to such a fucking fast rate, you know, that I just get so fucking excited about it, because the general staff is and so freaking heavy, you know, and I keep saying, I've got to get out of here. I can't fucking stand it, you know, just get me out of this space. Well, when you're in a space where like this, you're talking about stuff that's like, ooh, 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 you know, just like, I sound like a monkey doing that. So sorry for anyone who hasn't got the visual, but it's, you know, it triggers all this excitement. All my bloody buzzers go off, and I absolutely love it. I've loved this. We need to catch up for a 6-hour coffee. Anyway,
okay.
Well, we need to just lock out a day. Now, I've got to get to my question. This, of course, this podcast is to inspire people to get off the bench. Now, there's going to be people listening who feel stuck, which is all of us, and we have to just accept that, and it's absolutely true. What advice would you give to start opening the crack so that we can move to a feeling, even a whisker, help moving them forward to doing their thing? Because I believe that everyone feels stuck, and I also believe that everyone has a thing that they would love to do, and they talk about, I wish I could, blah, blah, blah. How can they just wedge that crack just slightly, just enough to consider it possible?
It actually starts with choice. You can choose to change and bloom from within.
Ooh, very nice. By the way, Karen's business is called Blooming from Within. So
It's been my catch cry for 20 years, believe it or not. And it still resonates true. You have to choose. I'm discomfortable in this space. Perhaps I could look elsewhere or do something else, or just perhaps I could just breathe right now. Place my hand on my heart, my hand on my gut, and just take in a couple of really slow breaths in through the nose, longer breaths out through the mouth to tone that vagus nerve, and just, I can choose to change. I recognise this isn't working for me right now, and I invite, through whatever my belief system allows, something different to arrive.
Oh, I like it. And you've got to be open to do that. And please, 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 everybody, if you're listening, please just be open. Please just have a crack at accepting that. And I like when you said I'm discomfortable, which isn't, you know, it's. I also want to give that 1 second to put in that plug, dis-ease. If you haven't heard of that before, please think about that. Dis-ease. It's when you're not feeling easy, the dis comes in and it freaking causes disease. So think about that word, you know, and if we're not comfortable, ask yourself why. Karen, I've loved this. This has bloody been fantastic.
Thank you. I've had a great time.
I think we've sworn more on this episode than any other episode, but it's so fantastic. Woo! And it is so critical, especially in this time with COVID and everything, that we start to say the past, and not all of it, but there's been a lot of things. Our patterns have not been serving us. We've landed in this chaotic space. The entire freaking world's gone down. What can I do? And if every single person starts to say, what can I do differently to come out the other side, we're going to have a different world. And
it's not a major paradigm change. Is where can you detach from what's outside your front door and just do you?
Yeah.
Just do you. What do you need to do today to just do you?
You know, the sad part is that most of us just don't like us. Just do you, but I'm just me and I've got nothing to give, and I'm not that flash. But I wish I could get my hands on you right now, because I'd slap that out of you. Me? I wanted that out of you. That's no, not so me, but I'm just saying most people. Yeah, that's the sad part is, well, I don't like me. It's like, well, would you like to? Yeah. Would you like to like yourself? And could that be the decision you make today, is just enjoy your coffee and go, okay, let's find something to like. That could be our next podcast. Yeah. Well, you're not going to slap me because I like me. I told you I'm my favourite subject. So bugger off. You're not coming around to slap the shit out of me. That's what I'd be saying to people is let me hug you. Let me hug you. That's an old paradigm statement. Yeah. Yeah. Now, if people want to be slapped by you and then have a hug. Let's reframe that to love. and then have a hug by you. Let's say people want to have a hug by you. Where can people find you? People can find me through my website at www.karenhumphries.net.au. There's booking, there's services, there's the podcast, there's the book. That you'll find everything there. Karen, I have absolutely friggin' love this. I'm going to come to you for a visit to knock some of the knots out of me. And I would absolutely love to sit and talk quantum physics for a whole bloody day and just rattle it out. But
let's make that happen, because that would be hilarious.
Let's do it. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for
much.
sharing this stuff with people, and I have absolutely loved it. So we'll chat again soon.
Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.